son off at his school, and if you're wondering why I'm using so many examples from his school, it's because he's not going there anymore after this year. So he's late, and I have to walk him into the office to sign him in. We walk into the office, pound each other up, he takes off, they have a little kiosk, keyboard, I have to key in why he's late. I'm going through student number, typing in the reason. The office assistant, she says, well, don't worry about typing in everything correctly because you people never spell everything correctly. So I am immediately thinking WTF, right? I'm in shock. For all of you non-text savvy people, WTF means what's this foolishness? And so I'm gathering myself probably with this blank look like, what's this foolishness on my face? And then I respond, well, you know, the educator in me won't allow me to spell things incorrectly. And then I just kind of walked out the door. Very pissed off, but yet walked out the door smiling. So I say that, or use that example to ask the panel this question, and then we can open it up to the floor. How do you see, where do you see opportunities to engage the educational system, right? So when it becomes, you know, individual experiences and then also systemic practices, where do you see the convergence or the merger of the two, so there's some synergy between pursuing equity in education, and there are some practical things that are being done to address the fact that it's not happening on a systemic level? I did tell you we were going to get a little deep, right?
I don't really know if I like going first all the time. No, it's really harder. So I think there's lots of opportunities. Whether or not we have the courage to take the opportunities is another question. But you know, I think some of the opportunities have to come from leadership, and some of them have to come from parents, and some of them come from students, and some come from teachers. But I think that you know, first and foremost, I think we need to do a much better job in the state of Minnesota around teacher training. I think that there's a pretty strong movement right now around, with the teacher licensing board, around requiring more than just like one class in multiculturalism for people to become teachers. Because I used to sit on interview teams sometimes in Minneapolis public schools, and people would come in and, you know, they didn't want to teach our kids. They wanted to be teachers, but not specifically of these kids. And it's hard to be a teacher in a high poverty school. And it's hard to teach kids who don't know English. And you really need to want to do that, but you also really need to know that it's going to be hard and be dedicated to doing that, right? So we need to do a better job of preparing our prospective educators for what they're really getting into, and make sure that they're passionate about it, because it's hard work, right? So, I mean, I'm assuming there's quite a few teachers in this room, and you've had a few weeks off, and you're probably feeling a little better, but remember how you felt like the first week of June? I mean, like physically exhausted, mentally exhausted. It's hard. And I think people who are not in education don't necessarily understand. They just say, well, you get your summers off. You know, that's awesome. No, you need the summer off so you can sleep, because you're really, really tired. So I think that's an opportunity. It's really around preparing educators better. I think we need to really be listening to the voices of both parents and students more. Unfortunately, you know, I have a lot of experience in a large system in which we frequently would do a lot of parental engagement. But I would find in most cases, it was a box that people were trying to check. They knew that they had to do some parent and community engagement, family and community engagement, but they did not really care all that much what parents had to say. They just knew they had to have this meeting, but the decision was already made. And in my experience, if you're someone who has gotten childcare for your kids, and you've gone to an evening meeting after you've worked a long full day, and you are passionate about the feedback that you're giving, and then nothing happens, and it's fairly obvious the decision was made already, that's really disheartening. I mean, that's crushing to people. And so, you know, when I was an administrator, I actually cared what families had to say and involved them in decision making. And it's hard and it's messy and it takes a long time, but you end up with a better result. And so I think that's an area of opportunity, is how can we work with families to encourage them to advocate in the system, not just in these pre-structured ways, but to be disruptors to the system on behalf of their child. So that's another thing. I also think student voice is tremendously important, and I'm really glad there's a student on this panel, because a lot of times we forget about the most important people in the education system, and that's the students. I'm grateful to Jay for being here today. And I think we need to create systems in which student voice is elevated. And that doesn't look like having one student on a, you know, PTA or something. You need to have more than one student, because they need to have, someone has to have their back, right? So you need to have multiple young people and multiple voices. So I think those are some of the opportunities. I see these kind of things happening. I would like to see them happening more. So those are just a few opportunities I see.
Wow, this is a really hard question to answer. So my initial thoughts are, being part of the Edina School District, we have recently been making some headlines because of some right-wing political attacks on our school district. Specifically our principal and my child's kindergarten teacher. The attacks were because they were promoting and educating kids on diversity and inclusion. And the article specifically called out the fact that they were teaching transgender to 6-year-olds, like they couldn't understand it. My child was 5 at the time, and I saw this come across, and this was right before my child started kindergarten. And so I wanted to know what I could do to support my school, because my school was supporting my kid. But these attacks were not supporting my school. So my thought is almost more, how can the educators and the parents and the communities support the schools when they come under attack like this? My city is divided. I don't know where these voices are coming from, but I hear them. And I hear them really loud. And they scare me. No one says it to me, because this is Minnesota, we're passive aggressive. But I do hear it when someone says, I accept and support your child, but I worry about the others. I challenge the person who worries about the others to find them, talk to them, have a long form, persuasive conversation with them, and try to connect your values with their values. Because when it comes down to it, it's my 6-year-old that is being attacked by these political organizations, and that terrifies me. And so, since I have the support of the school, I need to know how to partner with the community to support the school.
So in my experience with the school and the teachers there, it had mostly been positive. I had a teacher who I had come back from the hospital after being there for about 3 weeks. And I remember the teacher simply handing me all of the work I had missed and telling me, catch up. I was not given any support through that, and it really made things a lot harder for me. And then going into high school, we had been aware that I had had a lot of trouble with math, and through 9th grade and 10th grade, I continued to struggle. And I remember the teacher making a comment to me and my father while we were at a teacher-parent meeting, and he told my dad, you know, they would actually succeed if they tried. And that set my dad off. He was so angry because through the school I had been tested for a learning disorder called dyscalculia, where math is really hard for you. And I did not come up for any benefits of that. And then we went and got tested again through a private tester, and it was shown that I had this disorder. And I wasn't receiving any help from the school. And when we went and we talked with guidance counselors and the school psychologist, they told us, you know, we can try giving you some teacher help. You can come in after school. And that was, at that point, I knew that I wasn't going to be getting the help that I needed from the school. So I had to take matters into my own hands. I had to start tutoring. But it was really difficult to be forced to go through 12 years of this school and not get the help that you need to succeed in it. It is really just, if you don't fit the box where you can learn things with the teacher talking 20 miles per hour, flipping through the slideshows like 1, 2, 3, you're not going to succeed. And that was really just, it was a very damning thought to me to know that I wasn't going to be able to succeed through this because they didn't have the support I needed. And especially with LGBT through the school, a lot of teachers don't respect they don't respect pronouns, they don't listen when you tell them. I am so uncomfortable when you call out like my dead name to the class and then everybody hears it and then they refer to me by that. That is something that is really hurtful to me because this is how I'm trying to make myself a new person and you're tearing me down each time you do that. And I know that a lot of teachers this year have gone through training where they're being educated on gender pronouns, on transgender, and just how to react to those kinds of things, but there are so many teachers that don't. And I remember having a substitute, 9th grade, that called me a slur. They referred to me as a faggot. And it was one of the most, it was humiliating for me, but it was also terrifying to know that people like that were in the school system, that they were teaching kids, and they're not going to be giving these kids the opportunity to show that they are more than their sexuality, that they're more than their gender, that it doesn't matter who they are because they're tried.
I am really sorry that your teacher called you that. That is horrible. That is awful. So, okay, maybe I'll start with the personal. So every day I wake up like this, right? I don't really want very much. Some things I want to change, and I need a haircut. But mostly I'm really happy to be this way, right? So I think of myself, you know, I'm this magical creature, as you all are as well, right? So I get up and I engage the world this way every day, right? And it means a lot of great things, mostly great things, but sometimes it means terrible things. Like getting stopped by MPD for walking while black, which has happened to me, or biking while black, which has happened to me. And those things, you know, mostly my response to them thus far has been, really? Like, magical creature, like what are you? And it's really, it has always been hard for me to try and perform a self other than the self that believes I am a magical creature. Actually, I don't believe it, it's just true. So when I arrive in the classroom to share education with everybody else who shows up to do it, I just am like, look, I got up, I made it here. Let's breathe, right? Because if you've been reading Adrienne Marie Brown's Emergent Strategy, you know about breathing, right? So let's breathe through the fact that we got here to start, right? And let's just assume that we don't hate each other right now. Can we just do that, right? And from there, to try to slow down moments of openness in the classroom, and as others have said, this is a slow process because education is traumatizing, right? As we all know. So to try and hold on to the moments of openness in the class where someone has demonstrated a vulnerability that we all can, you know, relate to in some way or another, right? And to try and not instrumentalize the vulnerability, but to take it as part of our experience and what we're doing. And this is like while we're doing things like cinema theory, right? Or while we're doing things like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of something hard that I teach. I don't teach a lot of hard stuff. Philosophy, right? I do like critical theory, stuff like that. So like existentialism or something. So while we're doing something hard to say, like there are moments of vulnerability in this work. This is real life because college students are oftentimes taught that college is not real life. And I'm just like, you know, we're living at like the epicenter of rape culture at college. This is real, right? Doesn't get any realer than that for a lot of people. So when I think about in engaging this work, I also think there are moments when I am not, I'm always engaged. There's no disengagement from the work because I'm living, right? And so are all of you. So again, thinking about, you know, equity and like when there are opportunities to develop it or to promote it, when are there not, right? These opportunities. So I think, you know, when I walk in the room, I'm like, here you have all of this. You can call this Dr. Hoagland if you want to, if it feels like something that's good to you. But know that I had to go through all the things that had to happen for me to say, if you want to, you can call me Dr. Hoagland. I did that. I'm doing that. I'm here. We're here. Like, let's go, right? Like, what do you want from this? Where do you want to go? And it doesn't always work, because education doesn't always work, because college really doesn't always work, right? So I think about those moments of vulnerability, and I really want to, you know, now I want to slow down and even to talk about, you know, all of our experiences, to say, like, what happened in those moments that you had to learn something? What did it feel like? What did it mean? How did it influence your ability to learn going forward? All of these things to me are these moments of engagement in the work that we're today calling equity work.
Please join me in thanking our panel.